Hello, thank you so much for having us. My name's Turlo Gearan, CEO of Landcare New South Wales. I'd like to acknowledge all the First Nations people who are here today at the conference and who are dialing in from wherever you are. And a special thank you to the conference organisers, Landcare Australia, the National Landcare Network, all the various people who have come together to make this a reality, which is such an amazing conference. I think you would all agree. Landcare is people care. Earlier this week, at our muster, the Landcare New South Wales muster, we announced our vision for Landcare in New South Wales. 1 million Landcarers by 2040. We are co-designing our next program with input from members of our Landcare community. To achieve our vision, our program will put a new focus on digitalising our work, and that's so we can make it easier for Landcarers to do what they love. At the state level, we'll be defining what we should do to enable reliable and extensive supply of seeds and tube stocks and trees. We're also investing in a resilience program where it will be a Landcare-led project where we're looking at how do we help reduce risks from disasters through the work we do in Landcare. We're investing in a leadership and culture program. And most importantly, our New South Wales Landcare Program, which is a recurring 4-year program, which is funded by local land services and Department of Primary Industries, will support leadership development, and it will continue investment in our Aboriginal engagement program. That's our Working Together program. And that was formally led by our Aboriginal engagement manager, Craig Aspinall. So yes, biodiversity and maintaining that and improving it, carbon sequestration are really important, and they're absolutely emerging issues and problems that are almost tailor-made for the Landcare movement to solve. But we're doing much more than that, and you know that as Landcarers. Through our Working Together program, we're supporting our children, we're linking them to the country through Aboriginal culture. We're reaching into our communities in a deep way and demonstrating the unique role of cultural burning, for example, in making our communities and our land more resilient to extreme events and fires. We're providing a gateway for Landcarers to reach our original Landcarers, our wonderful First Nations people. And this is the critical element of the Working Together program, which is New South Wales Landcare is investment in our Aboriginal program. So I said Landcare is people care. This morning I have the absolute pleasure of introducing 2 very special people that are working within our program. I love these people, and I know that they're already having a big impact because of what you tell me, people tell me, but also I can see and I know their vision for the land and for the Landcare movement in our state. They have a depth of integrity and character that I couldn't help but be moved by their stories, their wisdom, and their ways of looking at the land and our people. So they just look at the Landcare process so differently to what I look at, and I'm continually being educated by their wisdom. It's Medina Penrith and Michael Kennedy. Over to you, Medina. Thank you. Michael, sorry.
Hi everyone. I hate public speaking, so we'll see if I'm still standing in 2 minutes. So I'm the Aboriginal Landcare Officer on North Coast Region. So I'm born and bred and come from Grafton area, which is Gumbaynggirr country. So Yinagay, Najawa and everyone, that means hello, how are you? How my position came about, see there goes my voice, there was a regional forum on the North Coast, and the 11 local Landcare networks had a big drive and push saying that they wanted Aboriginal engagement and programs. So with the support from New South Wales Landcare Program, that's where my position come about, and we developed the Country Care Initiative. So that was, had additional support from the Landcare-led Bushfire Recovery Program, so thanks Rowan. And that was part of the government's Bushfire Recovery Program for Wildlife and Habitat. So out of that, did a small grants program with the 11 Landcare networks to do an Aboriginal engagement activity with them and their Aboriginal community. So I'll come back and talk about some of those outcomes shortly. But being on the North Coast, heavily impacted by the natural disasters. So I started at the end of September last year. I couldn't actually get out and, do you want this? And do much actual engagement. So as Black Village, we're like personal engagement, not engagement over the phone or through Skype. So because of COVID, I couldn't get out for about 4 or 5 months, and I had to try to do the best through media engagement. When I was able to get out, I hit the road hard throughout the North Coast. So I have about 8 programs that each of the networks took up, which was really good. Then the floods came. So again, further impact that affected me to be able to do my role. And with the severity of those floods, I had to sort of pull back my engagement to allow those communities to just sit in the space and reflect about what happened, and then wanting to take that step in recovery and again in building resilience. So during that time, I took up the opportunity to take part of 2 programs, one being an Green program, and that's about doing workshops with communities about building resilience over a range of topics such as water, flood, energy, food resilience, and infrastructure, to name a few. On top of that, was a Good Grief is an agency that does mentoring, wellbeing programs about how to deal with natural disasters. So they've got a program called Stormbirds, working with 4 to 10-year-olds, and then a program called Seasons of Growth, working with 10 to 18, and then Seasons of Healing for 18 and adults. So moving forward, and with the concept of resilience, that's all tying really well. And again, with the Aboriginal values of looking after country, it looks after you. I want to ensure that the whole holistic well-being of people are being looked after, not just the environment. I can't catch my breath. So some of the outcomes from the Country Care projects, where's my notes gone? Just to summarise that, there's a lot of collaborative meetings, workshops and project launch events. So we have a strong focus on collaboration, not consultation, especially for Indigenous engagement. We don't want that box ticking process, we want equal partnership. There's been a lot of on-site events, visits, yarn-ups, community days, including Welcome to Countries, a lot of planning and mapping in regards to doing burn plans, property management plans, case studies, looking at developing cultural protocols about how to do their engagement with the different countries that's across the reach, engaging with 29 project partners, also the promotion of a short film and on-site activities, Indigenous signage along nature trails and learning areas, research to name Landcare sites in traditional language, and that's a focus I want every Landcare group to consider, because that's a byproduct for the environmental work that you're doing, and that's creating that eco-cultural venture. An Aboriginal mural at a school next to the yarning circle, supporting a junior rangers program, expansion of a bush tucker nursery, a focus on planting, weed control, stock exclusion fencing, and other property management and bush regeneration techniques, including tools, equipment and PPE. They're just some of the projects that's now underway. So the next 12 months, I'm looking to do a hell of a lot more than that, because I've got a lot of shelf projects in mind already, and hopefully this program will look to really take off, and hopefully it'll be really good to not just demonstrate that this is a good pilot program, but we want to try and get my position in every region across New South Wales.
Okay. Firstly, I want to acknowledge and pay respects to the Eora Nation for the safe passage onto their countries, where I will respect the law of their customs and traditions. For those who don't know me, I'm Adina Penrith. I'm fortunate to be connected to many tribes, but Wiradjuri and Yuin are the two that have shaped my identity. I'm the inaugural Landcare New South Wales Aboriginal Engagement Manager, so I've inherited the projects that previously Craig Aspinall, as a coordinator previously, was in carriage of. I'm here to speak about my vision for New South Wales Landcare Aboriginal engagement. We interchangeably use, Aboriginal, First Nations, Indigenous. I prefer mob. So magical week 9 for me, just putting it out there. I have already mapped the vast opportunities in the Landcare arena, from facilitating self-determination with mob, filling the spaces within community to coordinate existing funding and resources, creating and collaborating information. So my blue sky thinking is we will be the gold standard of Aboriginal engagement and genuine co-design. I get to walk into a reputation that we are easy to work with, and I aim to be the standard of what that means for land, sea and caring for country as an agency. Which brings me to my vision for Landcare New South Wales. And for me, just scroll too fast then. For me, it's my answer for the question I have, what dreaming may come. My dreaming is generational impact in how we show up in all that we do. So what does that mean? It's asking the right questions. So first, before I share my photo, I have to preference it by saying, acknowledge my identical twin sister Yatara, who's online, and she's got my favouriteest person in the whole wide world, who I love the most, and he's watching her mum on the live stream. So this is what mummy's doing when I say I'm going away for work. So this is a photo of my 5-year-old daughter, Tia. Hi, Tia. In Wiradjuri country. She's at the Brungle Yarning Circle in the native bush tucker garden. She's picking native bushberries and experiencing and living off the land, caring for country and connecting to our traditional ways and our ancestors' practices. So for me, the right question in this photo, in caring for country, passing on our traditional practices, what is Landcare's role? So for me, it's my responsibility to bring my daughter on country. It's my responsibility to pass on traditions, language and practices to her. So within that, I believe our role is to ensure that this can happen in 100 years' time. And that's where I want to really drive my focus for programming and how we do what we do. So what are we doing today that is going to have an impact in 100 years' time? So what does it look like for me? If I'm getting a small bucket of funding, you can get a small impact to generational change. If I get a big bucket of funding, I'll give you a big impact. And to me, it's also putting it back on mob. What is our role? How do we show up and come to the table and match that with genuine resources and thinking differently about being efficient? So what we can achieve to ensure that the space that we can is ask the questions, what is our role? Where is the generational change? So for me, is it, we like to do, weaving workshops and passing and creating that space. But for me is, are we putting that resource on Aboriginal land? Are we getting the people in the room to ask the right questions? So getting Crown lands, getting culture water, getting that resource and bringing all those people into the room. So when we say we can roll out Aboriginal coordinators across the state, which is a goal, my role is to ensure, are we a culturally safe organisation before that happens? So I can really foster that success in what we do. So to me, it's also putting it back, do we want to be right or do we want success? Because it also means creating space. So when we say what co-design means, and we've had this talk with Turlo, it's for him, what co-design means for First Nations is that he's backing me and ensuring that I'm here and I know what I'm talking about. And then for me, I've got to hold space for the mob. So it's not putting KPIs rolling out a project. It's saying, how do you care for country? Let's do that. That's all I've got. Madangur, thank you. We've got time for questions.